gonna get that recorded. And 3, 2, 1, boom. Hey everybody, welcome back. Filming yet another episode, and today we have a special guest with us, and we're actually at my house because I didn't book the conference room in enough time. So yeah, this is Jose Elizondo. He's a good friend of mine, been a real estate agent for a number of years, and we've known each other for, what, 6 years at this point?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Jose, tell everybody where you work at, how long you've been in real estate, and all that fun stuff.
When I first met Jonathan, he was pretty much still in diapers. He was no, he was fresh in the business just like me, but I am I am Jose, aka Joe Elizondo. I work with Fathom Realty. I've been doing real estate now for about 7 years. Me and Jonathan met right in the beginning of each of our careers, trying to figure this whole thing out, trying to get it all going.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. So, Jose, what was your background like before getting into real estate, and what got you in?
I did everything, literally everything. I worked at fast food, I worked in the mill, I worked in the factory, I worked in construction. I did literally everything and everything. Right before I got into real estate, though, I was working in the mill. I worked in the mill for about 5 years, and I remember working 80 to 100 hours a week. I worked in different states. I worked as many hours as I could, and just trying to grind and work. I did that, and then as I was working in the mill, I decided to take my real estate course, and the second I passed, I pretty much put 2 weeks in at my job, which I don't recommend at all. And I said, I'm gonna do real estate full time. So I was it was sink or swim. So I didn't have any other choice but to do it. And, thankfully my first year, I was able to do real estate really well. And that was my start.
There you go. So when you say do real estate really well, like what did that first year look like for you?
I think I did about 14 deals.
Nice.
If I can just remember. And it was, I worked with a couple of investors and some close family members, and it wasn't a bad year for real estate, so that wasn't too bad. But I do remember, even though it wasn't a bad year, I would shortchange myself all the time.
Sure.
You just give away and give away, and you've learned, I've learned, there's value behind it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, and so, 14-year deals for anybody is a great year, right? But especially coming out of the gate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And starting that out in your first year is pretty fantastic. So what do you attribute a lot of that success to?
Just being a go-getter, I guess, trying to go out there and meet a whole bunch of people and network. Back then, that was my mindset for sure. Looking back now and where I'm at in my journey, I know that there was just a lot of people in my corner, and there's a lot of people there for me and helped me through it. My managing brokers, my friends that supported me, family that was there, and just always sharing my stuff, always liking, always commenting.
Mm-hmm.
And just meeting a whole bunch of awesome people and just sticking with them, yourself included, some lenders, title people, just awesome people in my life that I got to attribute that to.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the things that I love about, actually working with you and being your friend in general, right, is that, you kind of rub off on me the fact that you're so positive. Like to a certain point, it's not annoying, right? But it almost seems to be like, man, this guy is insufferably positive about everything, right? So how do you build that characteristic, right? And where does that come from?
I guess I've always been like trying to be the funny guy, growing up, and that it attributes to that. I know my mom and my dad, when I look back at them, and I'm like, yeah, they were always trying to be funny, and I just never really noticed it. And as I grow up, and I see that, and I'm like, okay, definitely get that from them and my family. And then even as my girls, they start to grow up, and I notice them acting like me. I'm like, oh yeah, just trying to be funny all the time, and you know, that's kind of where it stems from. But then, you know, you start getting deeper into your faith, and you start realizing that happiness and joy are just two different things. You know, happiness is more of an emotion, and joy just comes from a different source. And now I'm just like, okay, I'm just more joyous now, and you know, you have your days where you're not as happy, but it's okay, it's part of life.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Like you said, you know, happiness, there's happiness in being joyful, right? And I see you like do both a lot, right? You're very happy most of the time, and then you're always joyful, right? And it's a really great characteristic to have. Now, you had brought up your faith as well too, right? Do you want to share anything about that, or do you want to talk about, you know, how that's maybe attributed to the person that you've become?
Yeah, absolutely. I've always believed in a higher power, and you know, I've always went to church, and I grew up Catholic. But it's really probably in about my third or fourth year in real estate where you realize that, you know, selling houses or working and all these hours isn't, you know, that's not the goal.
Right.
You know, you start to, and I can say this jokingly, start praying. You start praying more, and start figuring out, okay, there's more to this. So I remember, I think my third or fourth year is during 2020, where it's just a hard year for everyone. And it's just like, I remember, you know, just being in my room and just praying to God and saying, hey, there's definitely more to this, and I want to follow you more. And you know, as you start to follow him more, he starts opening up more doors for you, and you know, you realize he's working even when you weren't chasing him. You know,
right?
He's always working for you, working around you, working through you, and when you start realizing it, you start definitely trying a little bit harder. You know, you start trying to be more positive, and realizing that all the storms and the hard times you go through doesn't mean you have to stay in there. You have to be, you have to always be looking forward. And actually, it's there to make you stronger, right? It makes you stronger. It makes you realize that you can't do everything by yourself. You need people around you. You need God to be there for you.
Right. No, absolutely. And I think that, like, even for, let's say someone that's listening to this podcast might not believe, right, or have faith in a higher power, right? I think that a lot of times it comes down to a lot of the discipline as well, right? And that's what I see in you a lot, is that with the faith that you have a certain discipline. There's things that you will do and things that you won't do, right? There's events that you will go to and events that you won't go to. And, you know, while there's, you know, potentially at the surface level, nothing wrong with going to a certain event or not going to a certain event, right? Being able to get a little bit more sleep, being able to, you know, maybe not overindulge in certain substances during the week, right? Things like that is only going to lead you to be able to be a healthier, happier person. And that's going to obviously contribute to success as well, right? So even if somebody's like, oh, you know, this is a real estate podcast, not a gospel podcast, right? They can still get from it that aspect of things, is having discipline around your life, right? And I know that you are definitely one of the most disciplined people that I know, as far as like, you're up every single morning, you're running, right? You're working out, you're doing the hikes on the weekends with the men's group that you're involved in, right? So, you know, I'm assuming that, you know, you probably didn't come out the womb that disciplined, right? So how do you train yourself over time to grow the muscle of discipline to get what it is that you actually want out of life?
Well, I'm definitely not perfect. Discipline is one of the hardest things to try to figure out. I will say that doing real estate, you tend to want to become a people pleaser, right? You're like, oh, I always got to be on. I always got to give in. I have to have everyone, you know, like me. And that's just not the case. And once you start surrendering and figuring that out, you're like, okay, I don't have to do all that stuff. I don't have to give into the world. and then you start surrendering things, one after another, and you realize that I don't need certain things to be happy. And so once you can start surrendering things, then you can start putting things in your life.
Right.
I run every day. There's certain foods I don't eat. I'm not perfect, but I'm definitely getting there. To just be more positive, I guess.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, like how do you get to be more disciplined? It's literally just one day at a time, and every day is important. Just as the last day is like the next day, first day, next day, and you just keep going.
Right. So then, I feel like, at least with myself, and I hope this resonates with some people, right? Let's say I'm whatever plan that I'm working, right? Maybe it's, okay, I want to lose some weight and I want to get back in shape, right? So I'm looking at the end goal of being in shape, right? Not the, okay, what do I have to do right now today to achieve that goal, right? And taking it one day at a time instead of looking, all the way at the end and always visualizing that until it gets closer, right? So what I'm hearing from you is, fall in love with that daily activity of what you have to do, because for myself, and I'm sure a lot of people as well, once I attain that, whatever goal that is, then I'm like, all right, cool, I've arrived, and then I start slacking off, right? And then I just go back into the same cycle again, right? So instead of looking at it as a faraway goal, and as it comes closer, you start getting happier at that point. It's falling in love with the daily process. And that way there's no really end goal, because, nothing ends until we die, right? And then, you're able to live a healthier lifestyle or have more success in whatever avenue that you're working, and things like that. So hopefully that made sense.
Yeah, no, actually, that's actually a really good point you bring, is you can look at it as having a set goal. And that's one of the issues that I feel like I need to work on, is having a clear vision of where I want to go and what's in plan for me. But instead of me looking at the future and seeing where I want to go, and I set all these goals, all I know is all I can focus on is today and what I have to do today, and keep working forward and doing all that. And obviously you can set all these goals, right? But if you're just doing everything every single day, you're going to reach somewhere. And then to what you were saying is, once you reach there, you're like, oh, the goal wasn't even really what I was attaining. It was the journey of it, right?
Right.
It was doing it every single day. So
yeah, absolutely. Awesome. So I know you work with a lot of real estate investors, right? How did you get into that? And then I know you've also invested in a couple properties yourself too, right? Why don't we talk about that a little bit?
Just networking. You network and you meet a whole bunch of people, and you start to figure out, who's looking for what. And, it's definitely, since we're just talking about real estate, you start realizing okay, there's different things that you can get into and do. Just yesterday we were at a restoration house, and, just where they help men get back on their feet. And, that happened through networking and being in certain groups. And then you get there and you're like, okay, there's not just real estate investing or flipping or, renting. There's, this restoration houses here, and, you would have never known that was there, and they're helping men. And I'm not saying it's just for monetary gain, but just to serve, and just seeing that men that are going through certain things, you think, okay, I can definitely, that's something I want to get into,
Right. So picking things that you're passionate about, that you believe in, and then finding like-minded individuals that also have those same passions and beliefs. And then if the two of you are in the same line of work or could complement each other with what you are able to do, then it just kind of works from there, right? Cool. I love that. So when it comes to how did you flip your first house, right? Because I know you flipped a couple of homes before.
So I work with investors. You get to just see what they're doing. I work with a lot of contractors, and you get to learn from each one, and you get to see okay, this is how you do it, and this is how you do it. And then just being in real estate, you get to see different people do different things, and you're like, okay, I would do this, this, and this, and then I wouldn't do this, this, and this, and you start going from there, and you find people that are looking for rentals or to flip houses, and you say, hey, I can help you, and from there you can decide, okay, I want to help you this way and this way, or I want to help you find contractors, or I just want to help you buy it and sell it, and that's it. And I'm at a point now where I'm like, I would rather just help someone, find a property, them do whatever it is they need to do with that property, and just me help them sell it, because I can see the end of it. I think
Right.
that's the perspective of it, is like being able to see something past for what it is, and
Right.
seeing the future and what it's going to sell for potentially, or be for.
Okay. Yeah. No, I got you. Well, and it takes a lot of like project management off of your shoulders too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that's something that is not easy.
Yeah.
So, especially when it comes to flipping a house or something like that, right?
Yeah, and me and you have even talked about that, of just like doing what's really best for you, right?
Right.
As far as like, what are you good at? What do you love doing versus what do you think you have to do to do work? Because
Right.
there's busy work, and then there's productive work, and I know you're really good at figuring out days when I'm calling this day all my people, and this day I'm following up with people, and this day I'm
Right.
sending out stuff. That's just the structure behind it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that you have to, like, obviously there's always going to be something that you do that you don't absolutely love, right? Because if you just did everything you loved, probably at the end of the day, not going to get a whole lot of stuff done, right? But finding out what you're good at and, really honing in on that, right? Structuring your day and your week so that you can have the most success in whatever you're doing. And I think that a lot of people, like for example, you and like myself and you, have very similar personalities, where we want to make everyone happy that we work with, right? We want to go above and beyond. And those are all really good qualities and things that you should be doing. However, when it comes to business, personally, I feel like you have to be a little bit more selfish with your time, especially, as you build your brand, because at the end of the day, like if you're not like, if you're giving away a bunch of free time, right, to go manage a project, and you're not getting paid for that, you're only getting paid for the buy and the sell, right? Well, you're doing all this work for free that you could be spending that time working with somebody else and getting paid on. And at the end of the day, with business, like that is our livelihood, right? And so we have to take care of our families first, and make sure that we're obviously still providing a good service to our clients, right?
Yeah, and it's not like you're saying, no, I don't want to hang out with you, or I don't want to do this. It's more like, I just have priorities, and this is my priority list.
Right.
Some people put family first, some people put God first, some people put personal space first. But whatever you do, it's your priorities. And
Right.
when you start losing those, you really start losing, you start losing track of the day. And then
Right.
by the time you know it, you're like, man, I didn't get to do anything for me or for my family or for your faith. Is just like it really gets away from you.
Oh yeah, no, it definitely does. And then feel like you feel empty because you're not pursuing the things that make you happy, right? And if you're constantly being thrown around, between one thing and another, always trying to help out somebody else, you're also going to feel like spiteful because you don't get anything for yourself that you want, right? So yeah, no, definitely, I love it.
I will say though that I mean, even doing this podcast with you, it's not like, okay, I'm gonna do this for me. Like, I know that what you're doing and what you've always done is really positive, and when I see you doing something like this, I'm like, I definitely want to be there and support you and figure out how I can help you with this, because I mean, if I have a pretty close circle, and you're one of the people in that circle where I can be like, I'm gonna help him, do this.
Right, I'm gonna fight with my cat here. Yeah, so I've got 2 cats and they're both running around. So
They're just watching us.
Sebastian just made a guest appearance on the podcast. So you were saying about sorry, repeat that last thing. I was distracted.
Oh, just saying how it's really important to figure out who your circle is and the people that are important in your life, and support them, whatever they're trying to do, and just try to help them as much as they can, especially if they've been in your life a lot and helped you through your journey. So it's just really important to remember those people, and whether it's family, friends, pastors, whatever it is.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I love that. Awesome. Well, Jose, is there anything else you want to talk about here?
No, this is just a little first podcast type deal. See how it goes.
Dip the toe in the water.
Yeah, nice.
I love it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course, thanks for coming out, and You know, we appreciate you coming out here.
Here we go. That's
And there we go. All right. Talk to you guys soon and make it a great day. Boom.
It's pretty cool,
Love
man.
it. Oh, yeah.
After a while, you don't even hear, like when you first put it on,
Mm-hmm.